like to get good at drumstick tricks. I actually recommend against that. There's a tendency for a lot of younger players, no offense to beginners. I was a beginner as well. I still am on certain things, which is why I still practice. Even though I've been drumming since 1998, I still got plenty of stuff to practice. But in quite a few of these drumming tips videos, I talk about like audition advice for drum lines and whatnot. And as somebody who was like a former center snare for high school, college, and for DCI, what got me to be the section leader, center snare, etc., was not practicing stick tricks or like snare breaks or things like that. So a lot of people focus on learning those things, but those in the long run are going to set you back compared to people who just sit there and grind out the fundamentals. So if you look at like the home tab on my YouTube channel, I've got like over 60 chop exercises, but I've got almost 400 technique exercises. Why is that? And why do I have 1,000 grid variations? It's because they're more important than the chop stuff. So I never actually really worked on stick trick stuff. Like I got some lessons from Jeff Queen, who's a 4-time world champion snare drummer. And so he like showed me how to do like stuff like this, just for like fun at the end of a lesson. But this is not what made me get the line or made it so that like I was center snare. What made it so that like I was center snare and eventually became caption head, etc. Focusing on the fundamentals, the techniques, the simple things that you need to get super consistent at. Grid variations is like a way to work on your rudiments. So for example, if you are trying to like improve grid with flam drag on 1, permutates the accent, which means it shifts it over a partial, so a subdivision. So it starts with everything on 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4 for a flam drag. So you're playing second measure, it shifts it, so it permutates it, so it's on 2. Then the third measure, it shifts it, so it's on 3. So it does that 4 counts for each one of these accents, and then it does it for 2 counts on the accent, 2 counts on the second partial, 2 counts on the third partial, repeats it, and then for 1 count on the downbeat, 1 count on the second partial, and then 1 count on the third partial. So an exercise like this really makes it so you can play a rudiment with any kind of accent variation. Wherever the accent falls on this rudiment, you should be able to play it, and grid is a great way to work on that. So the reason why I recommend in general spending about 50 to 60% of your time like working on technique is because it is super important. And then like 30 to 40% of your time I recommend spending on grid. It's because that's technique exercises for a specific rudiment. So it could be a technique exercise for your flam drags. It could be for your book reports, like there's some wacky ones in here. This helps you to refine a rudiment. And so what you're ended up doing is spending like 80 to 90% of your time just working on technique. And then 10 to 20% at most will be on chop stuff. I didn't mention at all working on like stick tricks. So again, like I can do stuff like this. I can do like backsticking, and it was only because I was like goofing around on the tour bus like on DCI, but I didn't like sit there and like work on it and like I'm gonna make this as good as possible, because the biggest return on your investment of time is to work on the fundamentals, the technique.